Hello everyone, SpeedyMan here. As the thumbnail suggests, we are going to ask ourselves what even is control. Let's operationalize it so we can understand how to apply it in Rocket League. In this context, control means to be able to manipulate your car, the ball, or even the space on the field to your advantage. Let's go deeper and break it down into each learning level. These levels are beginner/novice, intermediate, and advanced plus. Master level control comes from having a very rich understanding and competence in combining all of these lessons. With this guide, we will focus on the essential information you need to get started, improve, and master the learning process for your overall control. For the beginners, I have the basics chapter. For intermediate players, consult the intermediate chapter. And finally, for advanced to higher level players, the advanced plus chapter. There are 5 main areas a play can happen: the ground, air, sidewall, backboard, and ceiling. Each have their own set of plays, and in the Advanced Plus chapter, we will focus on connecting them together. Each chapter will teach you the essentials based on your progression, the basics. Firstly, we will learn a few tips to get you comfortable with being on ball, aka actively interacting with the ball using your car. Tip number 1. First things first, let's talk about how your car moves and works. There are many different movement mechanics in Rocket League, some basic and some more advanced. For the purposes of this video, this guide will cover some basic skills in the basics chapter and then break down how things work. The main goal that this guide does do is it teaches you how to learn as a player. So while we focus on understanding how the car moves, it will emphasize the core point of how the learning process works here, using psychology principles. Generally speaking, your car has a hitbox and the ball has a hitbox. Cars in Rocket League are grouped based on the hitbox that they have. Lethamir and many other creators within the Rocket League community have already discussed how these hitboxes work in more detail, so if you would like to learn more about that, please consult those videos. For this video, I will be using the Octane, which has the aptly named Octane hitbox. Some cars are easier to perform some mechanics, whereas other cars may be more challenging to perform certain mechanics with as well. Bulkier hitboxes, for example, may struggle with dribbling, and flatter hitboxes may perform flicks better. It's important to understand this because the car you choose affects how well you may initially be able to practice the following tips. Tip number 2. Let's learn how the ball interacts with your car. Ball control is needed in many situations during your gameplay, so let's get you used to that. Using this training pack shown on screen, go to shot number 1. The shot is a basic catching play with a bouncing ball. Try getting under and staying under the ball as you're catching it. It will feel awkward at first, but I know you can do this. Once you have the ball on your car without it slipping off, try using your gas pedal to see what happens to the ball. It will move backwards relative to your car. And when you brake or slow down, the opposite will happen, where the ball will move forward relative to your car. Practice shot number 1 and carry the ball all the way to the net. Congratulations, you just learned a fundamental skill called dribbling. The next tip will help you get used to catching the ball in more awkward positions. Tip number 3. Now that you are comfortable with basic dribbling, shots number 2 and 3 will help you understand how to catch the ball when it has momentum or is essentially moving quickly. In these shots, I want you to focus on simply getting to the ball before it hits the ground. Remember, there is a white circular outline on the ground for where the ball is going to hit. That means you can more precisely time when you can catch the ball and with what part of your car. Try catching the ball with just the front of your car, then the front corners, and then the middle, and then lastly the rear of the car. While you may not need to use all of the car in catch plays, you want to at least understand how the ball and car interact with each other depending on what part of the car makes contact with the ball. It's good practice to be aware of these interactions and how they work, and how to make a controlled catch. Better players will be able to catch with more precision without allowing the ball to bounce super heavily. The reason this can matter is because when you have separation between you and the ball, that moment of separation is an opportunity for an opponent or opponents to attack you. So be careful of that separation and focusing on practicing good catching technique with purpose. By purpose, I mean not just autopiloting a mechanic or skill. You need to be cognitively in control and aware of how you're controlling the ball and also what's happening around you. That leads us into the intermediate chapter. For intermediate players, in the intermediate chapter, we are now going to begin discussing Rocket League concepts using cognitive psychology principles. We are going to focus on 3 main points: attention, memory, and reasoning. This chapter involves a concept called the Yerkes-Dodson principle, where you need to have a certain level of arousal, aka stress in this context, to engage in learning and practicing a new skill. This is why a super hard skill that you just can't seem to understand feels like it's too much, or why a super easy skill to learn feels like it just doesn't matter. and so you put less attention into it. All of these concepts relate to control in one key way. When you can control your mindset for improvement in Rocket League, and really any field of interest, you can control many of the variables, thus making your gameplay all the more consistent. Tip number 1. Attention can be defined as a selective focus on a given task, item, or play. In Rocket League terms, attention means to be actively aware of a specific aspect of a play and making a mental note of it. An example of this is when you're playing 1v1s and your opponent has a set of habits, like early challenging or always going for flip resets, that you noticed. Higher level attention in this situation means that you're going beyond just noticing it, you're processing it, and you're adjusting your plays accordingly. You want to be using active thinking in short bursts. Why short bursts? During the course of a game, you are using cognitive resources and energy to focus on plays, mechanics, and awareness, to name a few things involved. If you are communicating in a match with teammates, that adds yet another layer of information for your brain to process. This means you need to pace yourself in a play session. Do you know that feeling of when you're deep into a rank grind sesh and you just start making bad plays after bad plays that you normally wouldn't even ever make? Ask yourself, why is that happening? The answer largely involves you overexpending your energy during the latter part of the session, and you aren't giving yourself the break that your brain needs to recover. You cannot maintain attention effectively when you're exhausted. I will say this again. You cannot maintain attention effectively when you are exhausted. Take care of yourself, and learn not to just notice that you're tired, but to take action and stop. You can always come back after a short break. Even just getting up and getting some water helps you regain some of that energy. Tip number 2. Memory is one of the more misunderstood concepts in how we actually learn in Rocket League. We talk about muscle memory in terms of mechanics, but the learning process is deeper than that. When you begin learning a mechanic or skill, the cognitive load is generally high because the stimulus you are learning is novel, aka new. This is the cognitive element of why you feel overwhelmed when you are trying to learn a new skill, and it just seems really difficult to learn. The key part of making this learning process easier to achieve is through a memory trick we in psychology call chunking. When the overall information of a new mechanic is too difficult to learn at once, the way you simplify learning here is by breaking down the play into meaningful segments and grouping them based on what is involved. For example, in a play where you need a combination of car control and ball control, an effective way to simplify the play is breaking it down into the ball-related components and the car-related components as essentially separate units. The skill you're learning is just an integration of these units. However, you want to focus your attention in learning how these units work. In shot number 4, you have a play where you are air dribbling from the sidewall. You want to practice units of ball control, such as preparing the ground touches and wall touches, and practice units of car control by only using the needed amount of air roll in a given play once you're in the air. This tip is absolutely critical to understand in terms of developing good habits early on, so you aren't spending time later on correcting and having to deal with bad habits that are detrimental to your progression. If you have muscle memory from bad habits, it can take a long time to correct them, and that's only after you and or your coach has spotted the problem. Be proactive with this tip and you'll be golden. Tip number 3. Reasoning is the third key element in understanding how to improve your game sense and awareness surrounding your mechanics. Many players fall into the trap of playing on autopilot, where they're playing without any critical thinking and awareness of what they are doing, their teammate or teammates are doing, or their opponents are doing. They're not thinking about how the ball is moving and also where it will be moving to. How does this relate to reasoning? How you reason as a player is based on how you create logical thinking from the events you see in the game. Every kickoff, every save, every shot, and every play, you should be using logical thinking to help steer you in a cohesive manner. For example, you are last man in a ranked 2v2 game, and your teammate and both opponents are battling in the opponent's corner. You are spaced far enough from the play that you can collect the ball in time if you plan the play correctly. You notice that your teammate cuts the potential play off. Remember, this is a moment of attention to your teammate's play changing, and then you make the decision to back off of the play because the risk of overcommitting is too high compared to the small potential benefit of maybe getting a shot on net if you're fortunate. You then see the opportunity to strike when it's a clean play, and you use your good habits with ball control to set up a corner flip reset play with open space into the opponent's box. This type of play that you've practiced enough to get comfortable doing it intentionally using short bursts of thinking. You also used reasoning to make the adjustment based on your attention to the play. As you saw the space open up, you began setting up a play that you have practiced enough to effectively put pressure on the opponents and score. As a player and competitor, you will see that you are improving your ability to integrate attention, memory, and reasoning into your playstyle. Remember to take breaks when you are consistently losing focus. Practice with good habits, and be sure to think about how you need to adjust your positioning and momentum to suit the needs of a given play. Strong players can do this naturally. However, it can take dedicated practice. Do not be harsh on yourself if you are slower than others to learn these concepts. Learning happens differently from person to person, and no one person is exactly the same in how quickly they learn. Teaching programs like this are most effective when the students or people watching pause for a moment and reflect on where they are currently in their development and work on the building blocks to their success. Speaking of connecting things together, let's get into the Advanced Plus chapter. For Advanced Plus players, in this chapter we will focus on two main tips: connecting each part of the field together in your plays and controlling the space in the field. Tip number 1. Learn how to connect your wall play, air play, ceiling play, and ground play together. What do I mean? Let's take a look. I'm going to set up a wall to air to ground shot, ending with a flick. If you are here at this point, you may be tunnel visioning your mechanics in your plays by only using one segment of the field. You need to force yourself to get into uncomfortable plays in order to understand how to properly mesh it all together. When you are reviewing your replays, pause at key points during the course of a play and ask yourself, what can I do to build depth into this play? There are many plays where you need to combine mechanics and parts of the field in order to perform the play. Imagine you are going from the wall into the air, but you see the opponent challenging you in a way that cuts off the ceiling or above crossbar momentum. So what do? An idea is to drop with the ball and prepare to catch the ball for a ground shot or even a pinch if you've acquired a flip from resetting earlier in the air. Your replays will tell you a story of what you did and what you could have done differently. That's why this chapter is about incorporating depth into your plays. You need to be mechanically sound and fundamentally sound. If you struggle knowing what to work on, build a checklist of all your strengths and points of improvement. Notice how I didn't say weaknesses. If you reframe your mindset to enjoy learning by reducing the negative feelings about your playstyle and objectively examine where your progression is, you will be able to channel a deeper sense of understanding of how to apply your skills in different situations. And a part of that is because you're having fun. You're enjoying the learning process. In simpler plays, you may need to just shoot the ball to the net, and that is of course recommended generally speaking. Where this tip matters most is when you need to start controlling the space on the field. That leads us into our final tip of the video. Tip number 2, learn how to control the space on the field using map vision, opponent/teammate vision, and awareness of their direction and momentum. In Rocket League, we often look for opportunities to score, and we often overcomplicate it to the point where we just end up missing open nets and forget the fundamentals. To counter this, I suggest a very simple idea. Think. Use your conscious thinking in small bursts during game, just like you learned in the intermediate tip number 1. Be aware not only of what is happening, but also what will likely happen next. This does not mean just to simply play a predictive play style. However, it means you need to be abundantly aware of pattern recognition and then make adjustments in advance to take control of space. Let's circle back to the previous example of getting challenged in the air. You use your attention that you learned in the intermediate level to see the opponent challenging you earlier because they're trying to interrupt your play. You make a note of the space below the crossbar height being open and unprotected, so you force the play into that space. You use the memory techniques from intermediate tip number 2 to use your well-practiced skills. That is the essence of this technique. You need to integrate attention, reasoning, mechanics, and fundamentals all into that single play. This is how you truly start to separate yourself from the rest of the players in your respective rank. The mark of a truly advanced player is when a player is able to consistently make the best moves and adjust when things don't go to plan. Your mechanics are like tools. You can have a hammer, an auger, a drill, and a saw, and yet if you don't understand how any of these tools work and how to use these tools effectively, then you are often going to be making mistakes and even blunders so hard that you might just chop your house in half. So don't do that. In Rocket League terms, you should be using your mechanics and the mechanics that are best suited for a given type of play. There are numerous variations of a given mechanic that are practical in different situations. For instance, you know your opponent likes to delay their shadow challenging late enough to where the early flick that you may be considering to use actually is going to be easy to save. So ask yourself, what variation of a flick makes sense here? If you answered a delay flick, a fake flick, or even a well-aimed flick where the opponent can't cover, then you're on the right track. As an advanced or higher player, you need to proficiently be able to apply this methodology to every major type of play where you can score or get scored on, or where there are threats on the field that can lead to goals on either side. You should already be well aware of threats at this skill level, so use your abilities in this way to push even further ahead of your competition. To determine if a play is truly threatening, you need to consider whether or not the opponent has control, if they have a teammate screening you, aka bumping, if they are actively preparing a shot or play that attacks your box, or if they have free space to gain control. Use your awareness and attention to then adjust your plays to play where the opponents cannot likely defend against the pressure that you are applying. You can use this defensively to read the flow of a play, to know if an attacker is actually threatening a shot or is just collecting the ball. Those are very different in terms of threats, and you must prepare a play accordingly. Take those lessons and work with purpose. You will go far, and that I can be certain of. Remember, Rocket League is a game where pattern recognition, mechanics, game sense, and fundamentals all blend together. You need to take advantage of the space around you to create opportunities to advance the play forward, or defensively to prevent the opponent from taking your space. Regarding field vision, you want to pay attention to your opponents and teammates' directions that they're facing and where they're moving to. Recognize early on in a play's progression how the field of play changes. What that means is you need to be able to position safely, and while you are transitioning in and out of plays, be aware of whether or not the play may suddenly push your way. If you are in a position where you can't effectively take control, then go back into the replay and watch just before the play how your positioning and boost usage led to you being awkward. Remember, the winner of a match is not just the one who scores the most goals. The winner is the one who cumulatively through goals, pressure, attention, reasoning, and mechanics can achieve the most in a given match. While you won't win every game, you can learn from the things you may have struggled with within a specific match. This has been the largest undertaking of my time as a teaching player in Rocket League by far, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this passion project with you. I hope you have found these tips not only helpful, but also fundamentally important for your improvement long term. I know you are capable of success. Success isn't just winning a match. Success begins with the satisfaction of knowing the hard work you've put in and trying your best, no matter how hard the match or the day was. That lesson also applies to Rocket League. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I humbly ask you to absolutely smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate everyone here for being a part of my journey. Thank you so much for watching. Speedy Man out.